Hello, this is Simo from Kiiras Instruments, and that was Niclas demonstrating the guitar we are building today. We'll have more of Niclas's playing later on. I made a bunch of these neck blanks earlier, to which I'm drawing the side view of the guitar, and then I'll saw off the excess. The neck blank isn't quite long enough for the headstock, so I'm using the cut-off piece to make up for it. I'll sand the saw marks off and check that the joint is straight and true. Making the headstock angle like this is a bit finicky, but will result in a superbly strong joint. Small additional pieces are needed for the headstock outline. I'll glue a piece of ash wood on the headstock to match the finish on the body. The ash wood veneer will hide and strengthen the headstock angle joint. I'll trim the excess from the headstock and fretboard outlines. And from the thickness of the headstock. I will then use a drum sander to thickness it to final dimension. This step will also create a volute, leaving more material to the headstock angle, keeping it strong. The headstock template is kept in place with double-sided tape. And the fretboard template is held in place with small screws that will get routed out later. Time to rough out the neck profile. My favorite Finnish word is rallakalla. This step releases a lot of the natural tensions in the wood, preventing it from warping after gluing on the fretboard. I will then route a place for the truss rod with the ugliest routing jig you've ever seen. I'm preparing a place for the body centerpiece. Sometimes I wish I've had some formal training with guitar building. I'm really not that good with chisels. I'm looking for strong grain figure for the guitar sides and top. This, by the way, is ash wood, one of my favorites. I wasn't happy with the grain figure on this piece, so I decided to make a new one. I'm sketching out the end of the fretboard and then I'll cut it out. The end grain joint will eventually be hidden by the fretboard. This is my latest piece of sculpture. I call it Under Pressure number 3. I'm using ebony for the fretboard on this guitar. I'll saw the fret slots with a custom 666mm scale length template. A small locating pin indexes the plate to correct positions for the fret slots. It is then taped to a routing jig for my CNC that cuts the outline and the inlay pocket for the fretboard. The end mill here is 0.6mm in diameter. Next, I'll prep the neck sides for the body pieces. I'm using toothpicks to hold the fretboard in place while gluing. The neck sides will get planed and sanded for gluing. I'm marking and sawing off small notches for clamps. I place straight edges under the guitar sides to bring them up a bit while gluing. But they weren't high enough, so I'll have to do another take on it. Once I got that right, I'll finalize the body to its final dimensions. Two straight edges give reference to match the body top to the fretboard. The true center line of the guitar is determined by the fretboard sides. I'm securing on the body template. The screw holes will eventually get routed out. The scale length is measured from the top of the fretboard. I'm using laser cut stainless steel templates for routing the pockets for the bridge and pickups. The router has a guide ring that follows the template. For more complex shapes, I'm using several templates one after the other. I'm marking the places for the electronics controls from the CAD drawing. I'll route the pocket for the electronics cavity using a bearing-guided router bit. I'm sketching out the body bevels. These two holes will orient the routing template for the backside. I'm making a bit more room for the tremolo to move in. Rälläkkä will make quick work of roughing out the body bevels. The bevel for the backside is cut with an angled router bit. And now for my favorite part, shaping the neck. No, I'm not fooling around. This is critical quality control work. So, here's how I make the fretboard inlays. First, I'll glue some mother of pearl blanks to a piece of chipboard, then scan them to my computer, align the design pieces to the blanks, create tool paths with Fusion 360, and then cut them using my CNC. Once they are all cut, I'll submerge them under water, which dissolves the glue, making it easy to separate them. The mother of pearl pieces are then glued on with superglue. And the gaps are filled in with black colored epoxy. It's a good thing technology exists to help us chisel impaired people with engraving jobs. Next is my least favorite part of any guitar build, sanding in the fretboard radius. onto the fret install. I'm resawing the slots open of any dust or glue residue from previous operations. I'm checking if there is enough room for the fret tank to fit into. The stainless steel frets are then glued and hammered in. For the frets next to the inlay, I'm grinding off some of the tang, so the brittle mother of pearl won't chip. I'm marking places for the tuners and then drilling them open. I'm setting the neck straight for filing down the fret ends. I've ground off one side of this triangular file to protect the fretboard. The places for the side dots are marked in now, because once again I'm a big stupid dummy dum-dum and forgot to do this before gluing on the fretboard. I'm filling in the fret ends with superglue. Some modifications are needed, since me and Nicals decided to go for a deeper cutaway for better 24th fret access. I'm using a wire wheel to deepen the grain figure on the body. Here is the super secret process I use to make the wear on the guitar. Drilling out the holes for the output jack on a V guitar is a bit of a chore. After drilling holes for the rest of the wiring, I'm using a tremolo tool to round off the hole entries. The whole guitar is then sanded, then stained, then sanded, then stained, and then sanded. I'm using a modern, low-gloss, 2-part polyurethane lacquer. After each coat of lacquer, I'll rough out the surface with some Scotch-Brite for the next coat to adhere well.
Blood for the blood god.
I'm applying the water slide decals in between the coats of lacquer. A few of you have asked about the specialized liquid I use to dissolve the film on the decals. It's this stuff. In total, I'm applying 3 or 4 coats of lacquer. I'll start the assembly by gluing on this small 3D printed part to the end of the truss rod. This will create something for the locking nut screws to bite into. I was in the middle of moving my workshop while doing the assembly on this guitar, and I forgot to film the fret level almost completely. I'm cleaning the fretboard of any tape and polishing compound residue. The fretboard is then oiled with white mineral oil. The place for the locking nut is then cleaned of any glue and lacquer. I'm drilling holes for the spring claw with an extra long drill bit. All the electronics pockets get a coat of conductive paint. This shields them from any electromagnetic interference. The screw for the strap lock breaks into the hole for the output jack wire. I had to remove the jack so I wouldn't break the wire accidentally. I'm connecting the electronics grounding lead to the bridge post. My best advice for doing anything like this: don't miss. I'm using custom-made stainless steel pickup rings. The holes for the tuners are bored clean of any lacquer residue. I'm using a template to drill the holes for the tension bar. Once the strings are, well, strung, I'll do the final setup and tuning. But I'll spare you guys that faffing about. This guitar will be tuned in like and subscribe sharp below the middle C. And finally, here it is.